Latest round of reports in college football say Texas and Oklahoma looking like they'll be stuck in the Big 12 for not one, but 2 more years. A part of that, the convoluted mess that is making Fox, the TV entity, whole. Another part, the amount of money it's going to cost Texas and OU. Just how much is it going to cost? We've got some great detail on that from Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated. All that coming up in the video next. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. If you have not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I talk college football from a Big 12 slant here on this channel all week long, 2 live shows a week, tons of conference realignment talk mixed in as well. If you have not subscribed, please consider doing so and click the bell so you know when it is that I'm going live. You can support the channel on Venmo. It's John-Kurtz-4 and follow me on Twitter at JLKurtz. Here's what we have today. All right, the day started with some conflicting information about the Texas and Oklahoma situation because we got a much more rigid report from Pete Thamel at first of ESPN. This is what he had to say in a tweet. Sources: the effort for Oklahoma and Texas to leave the Big 12 a year early and join the SEC in 2024 has stalled and at this point is unlikely to come to fruition. Well, as you can imagine, that definitely caused some shockwaves for a lot of people who had just assumed, myself included, that this would be wrapped up at the end of the 2023-24 season, and Texas and Oklahoma would go on their merry way a year early. It seems like both sides are definitely ready for this. An important thing to note about that report coming from Pete Thamel is that he's also the same guy that reported about the Big 12 and Gonzaga. He is also the same guy that reported about the Big 12 being the league to shut down talks of a merger between the Big 12 and the Pac-12. I get the sense that that is a guy that has been kind of in the pocket of your mark here. So this maybe is a strategic leak from the Big 12. We shall see. But I believe the TV network, Fox, namely, is really the issue here. And we're going to learn more about that in just a moment. Now, reports subsequently came out that were not nearly as stringent with this. Brett McMurphy and Ross Dellinger, both big-time reporters on the college football scene, painted a picture more like this is a fluid situation that has hit a snag at this point. So I'm going to read to you from Ross Dellinger's article because he did the best job of capturing all of the detail here. It says, despite a report Friday of negotiations stalling, many believe that the situation remains fluid while acknowledging that recent snags in discussions have slowed momentum. Most of the snags are centered on television rights. Quote, things are difficult and complex, says former Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby. There are a lot of stakeholders. There's nothing easy about it. And that makes perfect sense. We've discussed the TV scenario in some of those reports before. I mean, trying to configure a non-conference schedule in the future to get Texas and Oklahoma on it for Big 12 schools to compensate Fox in all of this just seems hellaciously complicated. We know about college football scheduling and how far out it goes. That seems anything but simple. More from the article. Starting earlier this fall, momentum was building for the Longhorns and Sooners to enter the SEC a year earlier than originally scheduled. Plenty of signs pointed that way. The new member start date of July 2023 meant that the Longhorns and Sooners would compete against them for not just 1 season, but 2. This did not go over well in Austin and Norman. Though it mattered not to the result, Texas and Oklahoma did not cast votes to add the 4 schools. Quote, we didn't have a vote, and now we have to play them? Asked one official. Well, let me speak candidly here to this one official. Yes, you do, you bozo. You absolutely do. You're still a part of the conference. Even if you had your votes, you would have been outvoted, and the conference would have still expanded and added these schools. And oh, by the way, what is the reason that these schools are being added, Mr. Official? It's because you jokers are leaving. So you brought this on yourself. I mean, that is pretty infuriating to me, and it syncs up with what I alluded to the other night on the live show. I mean, what I have been hearing behind the scenes just a little bit. Again, I am not inside source guy, but just a little bit that I picked up is that Texas and Oklahoma were vehemently fighting having to play these 4 new schools on the upcoming schedule with that argument. We didn't vote on this, so why do we have to do this? That is a ludicrous argument because they would lose even with their votes, and no matter what, they're still in the league, and this whole mess was started by them. Deal with it. If you want to get out, you're going to have to deal with your contractual obligations. That, my friends, is life. Welcome to it, Texas and Oklahoma. And if that person happened to be from Texas, by the way, this is a life in a league that you have not won since the first year of the Obama administration. I digress. More from the article. Since December, when Big 12 ADs met in Las Vegas, the 2 SEC-bound schools, as well as the 8 legacy Big 12 universities, agreed to go their separate ways. There was a sense from both sides that the sooner they split, the better. Take, for instance, this recent comment from a Big 12 administrator. Quote, they want to go, and we want them to go. I don't think that's really any secret at this point. We've seen enough little snippets like that from reporting that indicate like the Big 12, the 8 remaining members are very much on board with Texas and Oklahoma getting out early. Everybody at this point, I think, with the new media deal signed, just wants to go their separate ways. The expectation of an early exit grew loud enough that those in the SEC had been gearing up for their arrival in time for the 2024 football season. Quote, it was made very clear to me that they are coming on board in the fall of 2024, a high-level administrator at an SEC school said earlier this week. So the SEC had very much been anticipating this too, much like all of us. But negotiations have hit several roadblocks in recent weeks. Last Friday, more negotiations played out that did not result in an agreement. Quote, they keep coming close, and every time they get to the finish line, they hit a snag, says one athletic director. Why? It's complicated. In this situation, Fox stands to lose the most, according to Dellinger. While ESPN owns exclusive rights to the SEC starting with the 2024 season, Fox would lose the rights to the two football giants for that entire season if they left early. Bob Thompson was quoted in this article, of course, the former head of Fox Sports. He says, Fox is the one who would potentially be harmed. Fox is going to want its pound of flesh. That can be accomplished in two ways. One, ESPN and Fox work out a trade. Two, the conference through penalty fees from OU and Texas compensates Fox. The first solution that Thompson mentioned, a trade, has been discussed. Those with direct knowledge of the negotiations say. That's wild. Listen to this. That discussion centered around Texas's future non-conference games against Michigan and Ohio State. The Longhorns are scheduled to host Michigan in 2024, play at Ohio State in 25, host Ohio State in 26, and play at Michigan in 27. An inventory trade of some sort, Fox gets a game that ESPN would own, was an option. That trade was denied. That said, one source claims negotiations are not dead and there still exists a window. Quote, generally speaking, everybody wants it to happen, the person said. How wild is that? We're talking about Texas games in like 2027 that could be on the trading block between ESPN and Fox here. Like, this is where college athletics are today. We've seen so much change, so many crazy things happen that most people thought would never happen. Add this to the list. We're literally like negotiating on a trading block with future blue blood non-conference games. Neither network wants to appear that it has taken a loss in this arrangement, according to Dellinger. Another solution that has been discussed, Texas and Oklahoma playing road games at legacy Big 12 programs that in theory Fox would broadcast. Would that solve the inventory issue? Quote, I could see that happening and I could see Fox agreeing with that, says Thompson. But it's not so easy. Big 12 schedules as well as Texas and Oklahoma would have to rearrange, Big 12 schools rather, as well as Texas and OU would have to rearrange schedules. The Sooners and Longhorns might want that agreement to be a home and home as well. Will their conference mates agree to such? It's unclear. A lot to digest there, but that seems to be the biggest hurdle. There is more detail here about the money. If you want to know exactly how much money these schools are going to owe, it says item number 2, the $80 million penalty for breaking the 99-year agreement has a more simple solution. Some say it will be more like $30 million, others say $60 million, whatever the penalty, it will be combined with a potential penalty connected to the grant of rights. Long story short, combine all of it and the price tag for each team is very steep, as low as $70 million and as much as $130 million. That is the price tag apparently that Texas and Oklahoma are looking at here. I believe it would not be as much of a problem for Texas as it would be for Oklahoma to pay that money to get out. Here's a quote from Big 12 administrator. Quote, it all boils down to financials. If the league teams remain whole from what they would be receiving in penalties, I don't think there's opposition to them leaving. If the media rights changes and they lose money, why would they let them leave? Finally, we wrap things up here on Friday morning in Dallas. Big 12 athletic directors and school presidents met for the annual winter meetings. Texas's and OU's exits were expected to be a discussion point. Quote, it's just time to move on, says one Big 12 administrator. Best for everybody is just to move on. And yet, despite all the schools and the two conferences involved agreeing on an earlier split, they have little to no control of the outcome. Like so much in college sports these days, the ball is in the court of TV networks, entities that have gained control of the entire industry through their multi-million-dollar broadcasting rights deals. Quote, we've sold our souls to the devil, says one AD, but we love our paycheck. Ain't that the truth? Welcome to college athletics in 2023. This is very much a tangled up, convoluted story of what exactly this sport is at this point in time, the situation between Texas and Oklahoma. There's a lot of great detail here. I think we all understand the situation facing everybody right now. You've got Texas and Oklahoma pouting. They feel they shouldn't have to play these 4 new schools, even though they created the mess. Oklahoma may not be able to financially get out of this. They stand to have to pay up to $130 million to leave early. There's also the massive problem of Fox, who's trying to orchestrate trades with ESPN for future games. Neither TV network wants to take a perceived loss here, and Fox also has to be made whole financially. Tons of hurdles to clear. Tons of hurdles to clear if this is all going to work out. Of course, we'll continue to cover it here on the channel. I will react to it on a live show coming up on Sunday, so be tuned in for that. And please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not yet. Talk college football from a Big 12 slant here on this channel. Tons of conference realignment, little college hoops as well. And make sure you click the bell to know when it is I'm going live. Support the channel on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4. Follow me on Twitter at JOKurtz. And I will talk to all of you guys soon. Thank you.